Hey there and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. Come along with our triumvirate of terror as we descend into darkness, hurtle into horror, and plunge into peril. Dan, wait, what's that I hear? Ching, ching, bell sound, bell sound, bell
Bro,
sound, bell
you
sound, bell
did
sound.
it again.
Bell sound, bell sound, bell sound. What's that? It's sleigh bells for sure. Dan, it's a very special episode. What are we doing? What's the holiday?
It is definitely not Halloween still.
Right.
It's not quite New Year's.
Is it
I
Arbor
think
Day?
it's not Thanksgiving either. It's actually almost Christmas.
You're right.
Aw, shit.
And this is dropping Christmas week. So if you support it,
That's right, we say Merry Christmas here on DOTD. None of this happy holidays straight shit.
if you big it up the Christmas, then guess what?
To
Merry
be clear,
Christmas to
that
you.
was a joke.
I still said Merry Christmas anyways. And if you have ever been part of a Christmas romance, you're in the right place.
A bad ho-ho-ho-mance, if you will.
Oh, that was good.
That was
That was
pretty good.
I'm Justin, and I should have been born twice, like a twin
What
type of scenario.
the absolute fuck? No,
Ew.
one of you's already far more than enough. I'm Nico, and I guess out of the three of us, I've actually technically, pushes glasses up, studied the blade.
What?
Okay.
Because I fenced and I read a book about blacksmithing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Look, it works.
Well, I'm Dan, and I guess out of the three of us, I've pushes up classes, studied the waves.
Oh,
Oh,
if I could go back and take mine back, I would push up my glasses and say, out of the three of us, I studied the sling and shot and hunting knife.
bro,
Either
it's
way-
not sling and shot. It's just slingshot. We've been over this.
Was that a Trini voice, do you think? Does that count as Trini voice?
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Either
It's
way,
Trini voice.
all that to the side, it is time to review It's a Wonderful Knife. You're damn right. This one was directed by Tyler MacIntire, starring Jane Widdop as Winnie Carruthers, Jess McLeod as Bernie, aka Weirdo, Justin Long, no relation, as Henry Waters, and Catherine Isabel as Gail Prescott. You might know Catherine Isabel from Ginger Snaps, or you might not. I can't control your life. We open up with
My
Winnie,
God.
who is a teenager in the town of Angel Falls. That's important for later.
Angel Falls, they crash around me.
Her father works for Henry Waters, a local business magnate who basically wants to own the entire town. Winnie's dad and Henry go to visit this old-ass dude who owns a house that Henry really wants. Riveting. But the old man refuses to sell. That man is soon after killed by the Angel, a local serial killer. I wonder who that could be, Dan.
Well, we may never find out.
Ah,
Or will
dang.
we? Afterwards, Winnie, her brother, and her best friend head over to a Christmas party. The angel strikes there as well and kills Winnie's best friend. Together with her brother, Winnie manages to kill the angel, who is revealed to actually be none other than Henry Waters.
What?
A year passes, and Winnie is having a shitty time. Her family doesn't treat her too nicely, and she is still dealing with the trauma of losing her best friend on Christmas. She heads out to a Christmas Eve party and finds that her boyfriend is actually cheating on her with one of her other friends.
Damn.
Not so good of a time for her.
Nope. And having been a Christmas Eve party myself, I can relate. Now,
You were at a Christmas Eve party?
yep, this all becomes too much for Winnie, and she heads out on her own. She stands on
Motherfucker,
her...
that's my paragraph.
All right, then. Nico, having been a Christmas Eve party myself, I can relate. But you can't. So tell me, what would you do?
Jesus God. So, I would probably leave, which is exactly what she does, because it just all becomes too much for her, much like you are becoming too much for me right now. So she stands on a bridge and she sees the aurora borealis in the sky. Sick. Winnie wishes that she was never born. And then, an isekai happens where she's thrown into an alternate reality where she was never born?
What?
So in this reality, her brother's dead and, quote, the angel has been killing people all year. This technically is an isekai if you think about it.
Kind of is, right? Another world?
Yeah.
All right.
Also, nobody knows who Winnie is, 'cause she was never born. Winnie hits a party where she runs into Bernie, not Sanders, a local girl who gets bullied a lot. After some initial skepticism and an attack by the angel, Bernie believes Winnie's story, and the pair team up to save the town.
I got to put in a quick interjection here. Every time I see the word aurora borealis, I see the word borealis, which makes me think of boreal, which makes me think of the dancer of the boreal valley, bro.
Yo.
Like, come on.
I love
The
how
ice-
musical that fight was, though. It was a
Big people
great
take.
boss battle.
Indeed. Well, anyhow, Winnie and Bernie head over to Winnie's house where they try to convince Winnie's dad to help them out. They fail on that point given the whole Winnie doesn't exist here thing, but her Aunt Gail believes her and actually joins their team, which now has 3 people. Winnie's mom gets attacked by the angel, and it's revealed that that's not actually Henry Waters in that mask, but it's her dad? That's
What?
right. The trio then flee to a local movie theater, and in the theater, they kill Winnie's dad. But Aunt Gail and a couple other folk are killed in the process.
Ah, darn it.
Can't make an omelet without smashing a few eggs. Speaking of smashing, Dan, there's a little that happens, but you got to say a lot. So tell me, what's going on next?
Well, with a lot to say and a little to do, Winnie and Bernie tried to send Winnie back home via the Aurora, but realized that they have to kill Henry because of reasons. Well, no problems here. The pair head over to a local rally where the police are entranced by Henry. He confesses to killing Winnie's bro and using Winnie's dad as a killer stooge. Winnie and Bernie fight Henry and they actually end up killing him. This powers up the Aurora, and Winnie and Bernie share a quick kiss before Winnie heads back to her reality. Winnie wakes up in her own reality and she's very thankful for her family and just Christmas and everything in her old life.
Yep.
Her family is apologetic, and everyone hugs it out. The movie ends with Winnie heading over to Bernie's house, and wow, Bernie remembers everything they did together in this alternate timeline. Well, the pair make plans to spend Christmas together.
Aw.
The end.
Isn't that what the season's really about? Fuck no, plot holes everywhere, but we'll talk about it. So, first and foremost, Nico, how's this movie look?
I mean, it's pretty. The costumes are nice. The scenery is interesting. I always like seeing the aurora borealis. Some of the kills are fun. I don't know, man. Like, it's kind of just a little generic, maybe. That's not a bad thing. It doesn't stand out, except for, again, the aurora borealis sure is pretty, ain't it?
Someone texted me about the killer's whole look and said, quote, "Who the fuck is this Christmas themed Moon Knight looking motherfucker?" No commentary on that, huh, Nico?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. This movie, I'm kind of going to give away how I feel in a second here, is just, I think it's kind of forgettable. Like, I already, like, after reading through the synopsis, like, I know in 5 minutes after we finish this, I'm not going to remember a single thing, and it's already fading. Like, everything.
I am shocked.
Everything is just, like, almost cookie cutter in a way. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think it looks fairly generic. I don't think there's parts of it that look really bad. Special shout outs to the scene in the movie theater where I think Winnie's taking pictures or something. She's causing a light to flash.
Yeah.
And the killer's like stabbing up a motherfucker. That to me was the coolest shot in the whole movie. And by far one of the most creative. Dan, how'd it look to you?
I thought it looked fine. This is going to be kind of weird, but I liked their outfits
Yeah,
characters
same.
had. I don't really know why. I mean, it's not like, oh, special effects, or I'm not even talking about like a monster or anything like that, but just the regular clothes that people are wearing. For whatever reason, I was just like, wow, they have good outfits.
They all look distinct. It had a sense of style to him.
Yeah, so shout out to the costume design. I thought that was actually pretty good. Other than that, I thought it was fine.
All right. Well, don't stop there. How's it sound?
I thought it sounded fine. I liked some of the soundtrack with the twists on some of the Christmas music, traditional music, Carol the Bells and things like that. But I don't want to say like horrified because they're not like super spooky or anything, but they are a little bit different and maybe a little more menacing than normal, but not goofily so.
Oh, yeah?
So I thought the soundtrack was good, and sometimes we loop dialogue into this. Dialogue was dumb and often, well, sometimes it was delivered not great, but I mean, this movie is just kind of dumb in general.
Jeez.
It was fine. It was fine.
All right, Nico, how'd this one sound?
It's fine. I want to go back to visuals for just a second. Can we talk about whether or not Justin Long had like orange spray tan, like to an unnecessary degree? Because I think he definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think he was intentionally had that done to make him look like Trump or something? Or
I don't think like Trump. I just think, I don't know, to look dumb, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think it was purposely a Trump thing.
Okay. No, that's fair.
I think he was browner than Trump.
Yeah.
Trump is like a brighter orange. This guy was like a more
Cheeto
burnt
looking,
orange.
Oompa looking.
All right.
Looking. But the sound is fine. I think the dialogue, like Dan said, some of the lines are delivered okay. Some of them are a little more flat or just wacky at times. But the sound effects, I will say, are for the most part pretty good. I didn't notice any like super obnoxious Foley like we've seen in some other flicks.
All right. And take everything those two said, and me too. So let's ask this now. How is this for a Christmas movie, for an Xmas movie? How's it stand? Is it Christmassy enough to you?
I think so. It's full of Christmas spirit, Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think I mentioned this on a review of Black Christmas a while ago. Like that movie, sure, it took place on Christmas, but it wasn't very Christmassy, in my opinion. This movie both takes place on Christmas and is Christmassy.
Right.
There's a lot of Christmas themes. It's the whole movie is sort of based off of a classic, iconic Christmas movie and follows
Indeed.
a similar sort of, minus the killing, but like follows a similar sort of arc and, beginning of the plot anyways, with sort of going to an alternate world or alternate timeline where you don't exist to see how people live without you and the effects that you have and everything. I think it's a pretty Christmassy movie, actually, to be honest.
All right. Well, Dan, I hope you don't mind sticking that one in your stocking for a little bit because we're going to have to pull that
I'll
out
stuff
later.
it there.
When we discuss something else.
Mm.
Nico, is this a Christmassy flick?
Yes, I would say it is pretty Christmassy, both the setting and, like Dan said, the overall themes, in particular the ending being so saccharine, makes it feel much more like a Christmas movie. I originally thought there was going to be some bullshit jump scare like, motherfucker, I'm back! But, like, nothing no such skullduggery occurred, and, I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of wish there was some nonsense here, because this almost feels like a Hallmark movie at the end, which was just tonally strange to me.
Very well. And I do want to point out, class, that both saccharine and skullduggery will be on the test later. So make sure you look up those words if you do not know them.
And listen to some Aesop Rock for good measure.
For my place in this, I do think this is a holiday-ish movie, for sure. It's not the most holiday movie, but I think it's holiday-y enough. Now, this is where I think it's kind of lacking a little bit. How's this for a slasher? Justin will lead. I think it's a pretty bad slasher. I think it has one of the worst slasher bad guys of all time. Like, this dude loses within 6 minutes of his introduction.
Yeah.
And that's just bad. Like, there's nothing really noticeable or memorable about this villain. Horrible, horrible villain. There is a bit of a body count, but it's not even gory. Nothing really spectacular happens. Like, yes, there is blood, but I think it's kind of the necessary requirement. They really didn't go above and beyond. But maybe I'm wrong. Nico, this is a good slasher?
No. I mean, the Christmas-themed kills were all right. Like, I think one of the first kills in the movie is some person getting impaled through the skull with a candy cane pole or some shit, right?
Yeah.
That's a really one, yeah.
Yeah, like, that was fun, but the rest seemed less slashery and almost more incidental. Like, the villain never had that threatening of a presence, because at multiple times he was, whichever version, like, fully incapacitated. For example, when they're in the Isekai portion of the movie, and that version of the whoever texted Justin aptly put Christmas-themed Moon Knight-looking motherfucker is just asleep on the ground, or not asleep, but like knocked out, and there's a knife right fucking there. Just finish him off. Why are you tiptoeing? Just do it. And that happened like multiple times, so no, it doesn't work as a slasher. Could you fucking imagine if that kind of goofy shit happened in like Jason 17 or whatever the fuck? Like, no, come on, man.
Well, Dan, I am here to report that goofy shit does happen in slashers. So let me ask you this. Is this a good slasher? IYO.
I don't really think so. For kind of some of the reasons that the two of you have said. To me, a slasher can go one of two ways. One is the pure entertainment. Hey, I'm in this for like the fun kills, creative kills kind of way.
Yes.
Or it could be a more serious, actually scary kind of slasher, you know, the stalking killer who's menacing and everything. And as Nico said, like, none of the, or one or two maybe of the kills are a little creative, but a lot of them are just, hey, I stabbed you. Okay, cool. You know, whatever. There's not a lot of creativity in most of them.
Yeah.
But also the other scenario is also not true in this, where the killer is also not menacing. There's no draw to that. It's not particularly memorable. The costume design I thought was okay, but like it's not like an iconic kind of killer design or anything like that, which is fine for some movies, but when it's lacking in everything else, I don't think that helped it, not having a classic look to the killer, or a memorable look, I should say.
Well done, Dan. Aptly put. Aptly put. And lastly, as far as like categories, if you look this movie up online, it's listed as a comedy. Is this a comedy, in your opinion? For the table, that is.
I struggle to consider this a comedy. I'm sure there are people who found this maybe funny. I didn't laugh a single time, and I don't know. It just read as more. I don't fucking know, man. I don't know.
I'll say this. This is going to get kind of meta, because oftentimes on this podcast, I'm like, this isn't a horror movie if it has sprinkles of horror. Like, the intent wasn't to scare you. So I don't really think it's a horror movie. I've said that about numerous movies on the podcast before. I think this is kind of meta, because to me, this is in no way, shape, or form a comedy. Like, zero comedy. Because, yeah, there might be a quip here or there, but I don't think it's funny.
I guess the signs are kind of funny. Like, Henry Waters, the best realtor. 'Cause fuck all those others.
Yes, and that's the funniest thing that happens in the movie, and it's at the very start. And afterwards, it's just like, yo, come on. Because there's moments that they could play for laughs, but they don't. Like, they just play it very angsty. There's so much goddamn angst in this movie. Like, the main character is the angsty teenager Dior. Like, literally. Like, she almost looks like you ripped her out of the 90s. She's that angsty. Dan, I turn to you because you are oftentimes the contrary yet elucidating viewpoint to Nico's ignorance and darkness. So, Dan, tell me this.
All right, eat shit, Justin.
Is it a comedy?
I think it is a comedy. I think yes, there are some jokes in there, but I don't think a comedy is necessarily like one-liners. Like what makes a comedy movie isn't necessarily one-liners. Like it could be the way the movie is told. It could be like a few different ways. And I think that this is a comedy. I just don't think it's a very good one.
What makes it a comedy to you then?
It kind of makes fun of a lot of different tropes in the slasher genre.
Sure.
It pokes fun at a lot of different things just in general. It kind of pokes fun a little bit, I think, at Christmas movies, holiday movies. And just a lot of the characters are just sort of over-the-top caricatures of either slashers or even just common character tropes, even outside of horror, even in like drama movies and things like that. So I don't think the movie takes itself seriously. I just don't think it does a very good job of being a comedy.
Do you think it's like actually satire?
I don't know. It's a good question. I wouldn't quite put it there. I could see it being there maybe, but and maybe that's another one where it could be, yes, just not successful. But for some reason, I stopped short of calling it actual satire.
I feel like that's where I'm at. Like, it feels like it really wants to be a satire, but it didn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah.
Well, for those of you out there who mess with the lottery, now's the time to buy a ticket because I agree with Nico over Dan. But let's ask this. So there is another world in this, and the way it kind of works is our main character, Winnie, she wishes upon the power of an aurora, and it kind of takes her to a world where she was never born. And for those of you who don't know It's a Wonderful Life, I'm just going to go ahead and spoil the premise because holy shit, that came out in 1947. And if you haven't seen it by now, you never will.
I've only seen the first 15 minutes, and I will finish it. But I've only seen the first 15 minutes.
So super TLDR, it's Christmas time and this dude's about to off himself. But then Christmas magic happens and he gets to see what the world would be like without him. And it's not better. It's worse. So he decides to stick around. Good stuff all around. So our main character here, she sees what would happen
all around. I mean, trying to off himself is not particularly good.
Well, I mean, afterwards, he decides to stick around and everything is good.
Jesus Christ, man.
It's a very happy movie once you get past that initial hurdle. So, in this movie, Winnie sees kind of what would happen if she was never born, and her family is a lot, more sad, although that's chalked up to her brother dying instead of her not being there. Her mom's also for the streets, apparently, in a lot of ways.
She's like openly cucking her husband in front of her kids. It's wild.
Yeah. And she never stopped the killer, so he's out here killing mad people. Now, we've dealt with kind of alternate worlds and alternate time travel movies. How'd you like that in this one? The whole alternate universe?
Strangely enough, I think this was the thing that I have the least problems with. I actually think it's pretty neat and tidied up. The rules are pretty well established. Well, kind of. Kill guy, shout, wish at aurora borealis, you're done. And it happens twice. I didn't think were surprisingly any loopholes in that one regard. I'm going
to say this. I was kind of disappointed because I kind of wanted them to go all out with like butterfly effect stuff. Like, oh, she wasn't here to do this, so this happened and this and this. I just think a more creative writing team could have maybe done a bit more with it.
Yeah.
But I do have one huge problem. Why the fuck does Bernie remember what went down?
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that it's like, we really want these two to be together.
That's the power of love.
That and Christmas spirit and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. I would have been equally as satisfied with her maybe linking up with Bernie, afterwards and just being nice and them establishing the start of what could be a relationship at that point.
Right.
Because I'm going to be real. She literally spent like fucking 12 hours with Bernie in the Isekai world.
I am once again begging you to take me back to my original world.
Yeah, well, could you imagine? Could you imagine?
I would watch the fuck out of a Bernie Sanders isekai. Are you kidding me?
I accidentally provided healthcare to a mini dungeon?
Dan, how's this time travel working out for you?
It was okay. I got kind of mad because at the beginning when she makes her wish, or she says, how she doesn't want to be born.
Mm-hmm.
She never actually said, I wish I wasn't born. And I feel like in the classic,
Ooh.
she didn't say, I wish. She said like that, but a different way. But in like the classic time travel, whatever movies and stuff, it's always, I wish XYZ. And they didn't say that. And I was like, man, this whole movie is playing on like, and don't get me wrong, I haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life in a long time. So maybe they don't actually say the wording in that movie. But just to me, the classic phrase is always, I wish. So I wish that they had used that.
Oh.
But it was okay. I thought it was kind of weird at how the alternate world is like dystopian and just like
Evil.
Yeah. It's
sad.
And I guess I kind of sort of see why, because, she didn't kill Mr. Waters or whatever. And this is what became of it. It was just kind of like over the top and just like too much. And, they have like a Christmas tree in the town with the angel killer, like up, topping the tree. But it's like, everybody's also scared of the angel killer. So like, why are all these people homeless? And why is it was just like, kind of like weird. And I think I kind of agree with Justin where I think maybe a different writing team or maybe seeing more of, because you weren't here, these things happened. Like of course we see that because she wasn't there, she didn't kill Henry Waters. So like there's a lot of things that we have to fill in, but it's like 0 to 100. And I wish that we had gotten like a little bit more of the middle parts.
Oh yeah. I agree with you, Dan. I also want to give you another quote from the same person who talks to me about like the Moon Knight shit.
Yeah.
So
I wonder who.
There's a part where when he tells Bernie, you matter. And the quote is, but she really doesn't. She ain't do shit. And I kind of have to agree.
True.
Shout outs to that Christmas angel, wherever you are.
Well, they still wonder who it was many years later. I also want to I want to mention one more thing, because I feel like we're burying the lead here on how quickly this turns into shenanigans, because at the point they're describing, Justin Long as whoever the fuck at this, Henry Waters, just had the entire like crowd, if not town, hypnotized and at his beck and call. Mm-hmm. Like, their eyes change color. Like, when the fuck did we establish that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say this too. The logic was he killed his son. The logic was he killed Winnie's brother. So now Winnie's father, like, has to obey him because he broke him as a person.
And that makes him a demigod?
Yeah.
I just don't know what happened. Like, I just don't know, but the people were like mind controlled, and there's literally a scene where they like snap out of it.
Yeah.
Because like Winnie and Bernie just like stomped the shit out of Henry for a bit, and they're like,
the whole crowd does too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, what? Were these people seriously under some kind of mind control? Like, I don't know. Fuck.
I feel like a strong breeze would have knocked him out of it.
I feel like they should have maybe made it so that Henry was maybe using the power of the aurora to control the town. At least give me a reason. Why is everyone mind controlled?
Or some more shit with the power of love.
What was with the weird fucking couple, maybe, where they just sat there and did drugs in both timelines, but apparently in one
about their lives changed at all.
But apparently in one, he made a joke and she got offended. He's like, well, I mean, the killer's going to strike. I'm not going to change my life. And then she's like, too drunk for this, and gets up and leaves. And I'm like, whoa, but that's how the whole fucking town is acting.
Yeah.
Like, come on now. So, I don't know. And you know what? I'm actually going to pick on Dan again.
Oh,
Dan, there's mad themes in this movie. What's yours?
Christmas.
Nico, there's mad themes in this movie. What's yours?
That's the power of love.
Justin, there's mad themes in this movie. Pick yours. Apparently, this main character was worthless aside from killing this villain was like the best thing and most meaningful thing she ever did in her whole life. Because that is the only thing that had any repercussions whatsoever.
Yep.
So, pick your moments.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, cool. And did you have a favorite kill?
Probably the candy cane one at the start, because that established not high hopes, but at least a somewhat more elevated baseline than what we got.
Yeah, I hate to echo this same one, but that's it for me too.
That's actually my favorite kill as well, just because it was the most visceral one, and it was cool. Like, you know, like it's like, "Blah!" And then the candy cane, right? So
he did have teleportation powers, though, man. He was all over the place for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to take it to the what would you do now, and we often do a little bit of a special one here.
Stab the motherfucker.
Well, no, there's no point to doing this one because honestly, I think we could probably, in a fight, like I think we could probably 1v1 that motherfucker. Like it's an older dude. Like, I got this, bro. I am not afraid of Henry Waters.
I mean, Nico has studied the way of the blade. So.
He has.
I sure have. Yeah. And Justin Long has an extremely punchable face, so that works out great for us.
All right. So,
if you've seen Barbarian, you know.
So I want to ask this. For Thanksgiving, we talked about, you know, stuff we're thankful for. So in keeping with the sentimental holiday theme, I want to ask this. If Justin or Dan or Nico was to disappear, how would your life, what would change? What do you think would be the biggest, most dramatical change? So, Nico, I'm going to go ahead and pick Dan. Nico, what would be the biggest dramaticalist change in your life? If
Dramaticalist.
That word will also be on the quiz.
Yep.
If Dan never existed, what would be the biggest change to your life?
Man, I feel like I probably never would have gotten into music nearly as much. And I, in that way, probably would have saved about
a lot of
like
money.
20 or 30 grand. But beyond that, I would be just like significantly worse off and just, I would miss you, buddy. I wouldn't know it. But
you wouldn't know it,
Yeah. All right. I'm going to pick Nico. So, Nico, if I had never met Nico, what would be the biggest change in my life? Honestly, as much as Nico and I disagree about movies and stuff,
you would have played a lot less Deep Rock.
But I honestly feel like, listeners on the podcast know the never-ending war between myself and Nico, but Nico and I oftentimes have been, you know, just like 3 a.m. comrades where it's just like no one can't fucking sleep, and then Nico's like, hey dog, I'm out here playing this fucking game and I'm losing like shit. And I've dealt with a lot of insomnia in my life. Nico's dealt with insomnia in his, and we've been like insomnia pals. And so I think the biggest change would be I'd feel a lot more lonely because Nico and I argue all the time, but it's real quiet without someone to argue with. So that for sure would probably be the biggest change.
I remember there was one winter when it might not have been in winter, but the time period is not terribly important. There was one year when Catherine came out, the video game for, with like the blocks and the adultery. Wild way to pitch a game, but like, I don't know how else to describe it. But anyway, I remember there was a night where I was like really sick, and this was in the middle of Ramadan, so Justin was like getting up early or just never went to sleep, and I texted this motherfucker at like 6 a.m. when the sun was coming up. I just beat the last level and got the golden egg. He was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, Real shit.
Real shit. So, Dan, by process of elimination, you have me. So what's the biggest change, Dan?
I think Justin and I have a saying of iron sharpens iron.
Okay.
So that there's a lot of times where, when we talk and events in my life and events in his life are totally unrelated, but somehow coincide with each other, maybe. And I think we kind of help push each other to be better and everything, and take health more seriously, finances more seriously, whatever it may be. So I think just general life inspiration, if he wasn't around, I think I would be a lot less inspired and a lot less worse off. I'd be less better off, which is worse off.
Okay.
I'd be less worse off.
Wait,
I
what?
feel the spirit. I got it. Some real podcast lore being dropped here, dear listener. But now, put that to the side. It's time for the critic fucking review. Where do you guys think this is?
Yep, that was a real fart, just so you know.
I also accidentally, instead of it's a wonderful knife, it's a wonder fuck knife. And you don't want to know what those results were.
Hey,
I kind of do. Can you paste in the chat, please?
With that being said, hit me with it. What's the score?
52.
Ooh, that's close. I was going to say 50.
Nico steals the crown back. It's a 55% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Audience liked it a bit more at 72. What would you say?
Interesting.
This is a movie.
Mm.
This is one of the movies of all time.
Real talk. So what's the number you got for it?
It's a Christmas movie. It has Christmas in it. There are actors with lines. It has a soundtrack. There is a runtime. Scenes are shot. Characters die. The Foley exists. On the merit of these empirical facts alone, I'm giving it a 33.
Damn.
I checked with the boys in the lab, and that's the result they gave me. I'm sorry.
I'll go next. This is a very confused movie. I think the premise is solid. It's just the execution is all over the place, man. It's like it can't decide what it wants to be. There's moments where it feels like it wants to be more drama. There's moments where it feels like it wants to be a horror. There's moments where it feels like maybe it wants to be a coming of age story for Winnie. I mean, shit, man. Are we going to talk about the fact that Winnie's, boyfriend cheated on her with her other friend, and then the same girl that, by the way, Winnie was also bullying, ended up being someone that Winnie had feelings for? And it's like, there's so much that happens. I mean, fuck me. At the very end, to her cheating boyfriend and friend, she was like, you guys are cute together. I'm okay with this. And I'm like, yo, this whole character development is so unwarranted and unearned. I don't like this movie. It's going to get a 50 from me.
Yeah, I agree with both of what you guys said. I think Nico said it best earlier in the podcast, that the movie's kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Like, in a lot of ways, this movie is fine. I mean, there are plot holes and there are things that we've, discussed, but all in all, I think the movie is fine, but there's not like a single thing that makes it memorable. And I think that's one of, not to sound too harsh, but I think that's one of the worst things that a movie or a piece of art can do, is just be totally forgettable.
Yeah.
I'm going to say a 38.
No special, though.
Yikes. Well, there you go. We definitely, maybe, possibly did not like this one. But let's go ahead and lay it out on the table. Would you recommend this to a friend or even an enemy?
It is inoffensive, I will say that, but no, I would not recommend it.
I'm not going to recommend it.
I wouldn't, but in a weird way, I'm kind of close to recommending it. Because, I think like Justin said, the premise is solid. Like it has a good idea. The execution isn't good though. And I kind of want to recommend it, but it's just not good enough. But
It could have been so much cooler.
Yeah.
yeah, and even if it wasn't a great movie, like I feel like it could have just been a hey, let's put it on for just a fun time, just to watch a fun slasher that's Christmas themed, but it doesn't get there. So no recommend, and I'm kind of mad about it.
You know, what was the
Yeah.
movie again with Cthulhu?
Glorious.
Yeah,
Glorious. I think Glorious was an example of a
The
movie
Christmas
with
movie?
well, of a movie with a lower budget and a premise that you kind of got to get pulled into it a little bit, but the execution was so well done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I feel like this one had a very good premise, but the execution was just not great. Didn't stick the landing. Actually wound up in a different sports arena altogether.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my thoughts, but I'm not going to harp on it. So we don't recommend it, dear listener, meaning it's not going to get any kind of award.
I mean, I guess technically, since it's a very bad movie, does this qualify as? I mean, I already know
It's
the
not
answer.
fun though. Like
But, no.
during this entire runtime, I was just, and it's short, mind you. So during
Yeah.
this entire runtime, I was like checking to see how much was left, and that mysterious person who shall not be named was texting Justin their thoughts, and just like, I don't know, man, it's not entertaining enough. I don't think.
No, definitely not.
Well, you've heard it here, but we'd love to hear from you. That's right. You can reach out to us on X and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. That's Don't Open That Door. Plus, check everything we've done on our website, which is dotdhorror.com. But till next time, take care of one another for sure. Have a good holiday season on the real. Even if you don't celebrate, vibe out with friends. Do something good. Take some time for yourself. Reflect. But as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.